I think we're at a point where there's enough to go around. I've been doing some numbers. I'm a numbers guy from all my years of general contracting. But so, for instance, you take the United States. There is a gross domestic product of, I think it's close to $21 trillion a year. And you divide that by the population of the United States, which is about 300 and, I don't know, 328, 338, something like that. It comes out to $65,000 a person. Now, if you take, so that's per person, but you still have to pay for all the federal government infrastructures and all their programs and the state and the local, all of that. That's about a quarter to a third of the gross domestic product. So you take a third off 65,000, you've got about 40-something thousand that every man, woman, and child in this country could receive if everything were, if everything were divided equally. So that gives you an idea of the wealth that we have. So, I'm not saying, I mean, people who are conservative might say, well, we're not going to, and I'm not saying that we should do that right now, that we should just level everything and give everybody equal. Because like I was saying before, you give a starving person too much, they'll overdo it and they'll kill themselves. So you just don't go from people who are in abject poverty to just a lot of money. They wouldn't have the tools of how to deal with it. Just like a lot of people, or perhaps most people, who have won the lottery, their life becomes miserable. But I'm using this more as an educational thing, like what can you do? And so you take the world. The world gross domestic product is about $81 trillion. And you divide that by 7.6 billion, and you've got $10,664 per person. Well, and then they say you take a third off of that. So it's about $7,000 a year per person. Maybe not so much in northern climes where you need extra food and shelter and it's cold and heating and all of that. But, a family of four, 7 times 4 is 28,000. I mean, you could almost do something like that in this country. Barely, but you could almost do something like that. And then further things, like if you go back to the starvation and the malnutrition, you can generally feed people for about 1,000 a year, especially in sort of like where most of the starvation is happening in sub-Saharan Africa, I think, and other parts. And you could feed people for 1,000 a year. So 1,000 a year times 9.1 million, it's about $1 billion a year. And that is just eminently doable and should be done. I mean, and I know, the answer is not simple, that there's fighting going on and people using food as a weapon, and there's a lot of diplomacy and tricky delivery questions, how you get the food targeted to where people need it. But with drones and blimps and airships that can go through and and satellites that can pinpoint it, I think that could be much easier. And the malnourished people, you do that, $1,000 a person, that's $1 trillion. So the world domestic product is 89.9 trillion. So you take what's that? 10%. It's like 1.2 or 1.3% of the gross world product, and you've got that potentially licked. So I think this all points out that we're really in a different, we're in a different playing field in the world right now. We're in a different playing field. Like starvation was eliminated in England and the Netherlands sometime in the 18th century. They had really good farming techniques. They were smart, they were intelligent, they had progressive governments. There was no more starvation. There was no more famines in the Netherlands and in England after that point. There were in Central Europe, there were in Germany, there were in France, but not there. And now we have it within our reach. Have that for the whole world. And since we're all connected, and more all the time, we know what's going on, and we need everybody. We need everybody in their full blossom of their intelligence and their humanity. There's just no other way it can be done. It's not fair and it's not right. It seems, as I see it through human history, we've been on a thing of scarcity. Things have been scarce. And there was not enough food. There was just not enough to go around. So it had to go to a small group of people that could keep at least some semblance of civilization going, so that monks could write the Bible and that people could make beautiful music and architecture and works that inspire. That was needed. So that kind of layering of society was needed. But now it's not. It's just not needed. There's enough to go around for everybody. And I think we should take a chance and do it and see what happens. I think there's this indomitable human spirit that comes up, that grows when it's given a chance. And I think that's what we should do.